Right, so today we're with Bill Leeb from Frontline Assembly. Bill, hello. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Bill Leeb, and I am speaking from rainy Vancouver, and hoping to get to sunny Malta in the near future and experience island living.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And the festival, you'll love it. It's a very good festival.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm
Yeah,
really,
you see the people there, the fans and everything. They'll just take it all on board, and they will enjoy every second of it. And they really get involved, and they love it. So it's a beautiful festival. One of the best, I think.
I think it'll definitely be a highlight for me on all aspects. So yeah, I mean, can't wait to get there.
Yep, it'll be awesome. We're looking forward to seeing you there. Definitely. One of the definite highlights of the festival this year, I think, for sure.
The whole lineup looks great. Everybody, the whole
Does
thing. Like
yes,
if you like this kind of music, it's just like one after another. I mean, just take your pick.
yeah, yeah, it is. It is like that. And I've also discovered a lot of new bands during these festivals where they're
Right.
smaller bands from different countries, and you think, wow, these are
Hmm.
really good. Um, and that does impress you when you see the new bands. But then you see the older bands like Front 242 came last year,
Oh, okay.
and I have never seen people move so much as Front 242. They were so active. It's like they're showing up the young ones.
Hmm.
So it's fantastic. It's great seeing that though. The older bands coming in and still being as punchy as ever, and it's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a village, it takes young and old and in between. And I think everybody brings something different to the table. And, and that's how we just keep this frontier going, like the new ones take a cue from the old ones and so it goes. And hopefully we'll continue like that.
Because you've been 1986, was it
I guess,
1986?
yeah. Like, I mean, I think our first Skinny Puppy tour was way back then, like, and just kept on rolling since then, I don't think any of us ever thought we'd still be around or got to where we did, like it was a whole different concept to like how, we made music and how we put it out there and was the whole indie labels were just starting off, punk rock, everything. It was a totally different concept as to you just got in a van and just went out there and did it, like and I don't think anybody's had any expectations except we wanted to change the world with our music, and that was enough of a driving force to get us out there. And I mean, look at the scene now and look at all the bands and I mean, in the last 2 weeks, you got Lady Gaga like talking about being influenced by Nine Inch Nails and the whole releasing and literally an EBM album with more commercial vocals. But so we'll see how that maybe keeps things going and maybe gets more people from the mainstream into like
Yeah, because it might.
walking away from Taylor Swift and listening to something else for a
Yeah,
little
it
while.
might
But
cause
I thought
that.
that was pretty cool. I thought that was a really good sign of
Yeah,
come.
but it's kind of a recognition of the
Yeah.
scene. So hopefully they'll cause a little bit of a crossover where it will slowly move to new bands, and people will see that or hear that music is really good, and you can enjoy
Well,
it.
better. Yeah, like Beyonce went and did country and it was Lady Gaga went and did EBM. So I thought, I mean, she has an amazing voice anyways, but yeah, I thought that was like a real positive step, regardless of what you think, like
Yeah,
I thought that was great. So I think that'll definitely keep this torch going and will maybe new artists that come along will now think, maybe that'll definitely inspire some new artists.
I think so. Yeah, because I mean, I know I'm I'm not keen on her, but I know she is quite talented when it comes to different styles of music. So if she can do EBM and bring that people along with it, well, Got to be.
So yeah, so that's definitely the way.
Yeah,
Definitely new and interesting thing.
definitely. How's it changed for you guys? I mean, it's been about what 39, horrible to say, but about 39 years, isn't it now? And things must have changed an incredible amount.
Well, I mean, I still feel like really privileged that me and Reese are like, we're still alive and we're able to be ourselves and be productive and like we've our journey, like we could write a whole encyclopedia of like of life experiences and tours and like I mean, Reese on his own as well, like became like quite the metal producer for a while with Fear Factory and Machine Head and remixing and we like our side projects like Delerium and Conjure One,
Yeah, you've had a
end up
lot of side
selling
projects as well, haven't you?
millions of copies. And so it's like, yeah, we've had a big adventure in life and it's hard to really put it all into sort of, like into a few conversations and stuff like that. But I don't think either one of us, I think jokingly when we started, somebody said, well, what's your main goal? And I said, well, to never get a real job. It was like,
Yeah,
and I've managed not to do that. And I think just that alone itself is an achievement because, like I think nowadays though it's a lot harder for people to make a living just
yeah,
doing this because the internet, social media, like technology, there's three times as many artists, bedroom warriors that are putting up music. I think Spotify says they're pitched with like 10,000 songs per week and they have to decide which one, whereas when we started, it was like, was no such thing. There was no social media.
no,
There wasn't even a computer for programming, the first few albums, it was like all done on analog little sequence boxes and stuff like that. So it's I think for us, it's for me anyways, it's amazing to have seen, the from the one side to where we are now, whereas a lot of young artists now, they've that were just born like 20 years ago, they were born with a laptop and a cell phone
yeah,
and social media. And so they've never experienced what we did back then. So I think in that way, I like having seen both sides so I can appreciate things even more so, so but yeah, so like I mean the changes have been incredible and but I still think, like our generation of, like they said, Front 242 and with Puppy and everything, I mean, I think we've influenced a lot of the artists now and like I said, even like Lady Gaga being influenced by Nine Inch Nails, I mean, he opened up for Puppy at one point with him and just another guy, way
wow,
back in the day. So like I think the whole Wax Trax era, with Ministry, we just did that big Ministry tour in gear with Gary Numan last year, which was amazing. So yeah, everything's come full circle, and yet it all kind of makes sense. It's and I think people and music will just keep moving forward, and I think it's alive and well with all the festivals and stuff. And
definitely.
I guess we'll just hang in there until we either can't do it or people don't, like but
Yeah,
for now it seems especially great, like when we did like 3 weeks in December in Europe before Christmas and every show was full and we were just playing all the old stuff and it seemed like there was a real renaissance for us as well as people coming back and appreciating all the songs like Digital Tension and all these songs we did like 30 years ago and it felt more like a love affair now. It felt like we weren't so much like trying to prove ourselves or be the latest thing. It was just kind of it was really nice in that way.
that's
And
brilliant.
we met so many people we've known over the years and that was really a great time. So I feel like it's kind of like now that is the new way for us. And so yeah, we're doing a lot of our old music, and I think in the fall in America too, we're going to do a total Wax Trax old school set with all our music, because we have a pretty big catalog. So, and I think people kind of want to hear that. So that's where we're at now.
What about the people who are coming to the concerts, the gigs? Are they older people, or are they younger ones as well?
I find it's a real mix now. I mean, yeah, like I said, we've made a lot of friends over the years, and so you run into people, and but I find there's a lot of new people and younger people, and so I think that's what's really healthy and cool about
Yeah,
that. It's like I think people that, like I said, that weren't even born when we released Tactical Neural or Caustic Grip or Remissions came out, because a lot of people now in their early 20s, I mean, yeah, they weren't even there. So
oh
it's cool to see all these people, and they're very informed and they're into all this whole scene, like I guess dark wave is kind of popular now and stuff. And
yeah,
and yeah, so I think it takes, like I said, it takes a village, and I think it when we did the Gary Numan ministry thing, there was families were bringing very young people with them, just like generations from way back, from 35 years ago to now. So it's pretty cool.
that's fantastic, that isn't it?
Yeah, I like
Really,
it.
yeah. And what a gig to have. Ministry, Gary Newman, and you. That's a credible lineup in itself.
Yeah, that was pretty special, like I mean, it was like it's not that often you get able to go on a big tour like where every show is sold out, and like you're sitting backstage and cars start, and so we literally run out, and we want to watch Gary's entire set because I mean we grew up on that, and
Yeah,
he's a legend, and he's a great performer, and then Ministry would start with their stuff, and so it was just like this big musical orgasmatic party every night, and everybody was super friendly and nice, and
that's
and
lovely.
yeah, it was definitely one of our highlights. Me and Reese were like, a lot of nights we were like, what the hell are we going to do after this to top this? We can't, because
That's
these were, like, I remember dancing to, Are My Friends Electric in nightclubs, never thinking once I was going to meet this gentleman or even tour with him. You know what I
wow.
mean? So like life's taken a lot of wild and crazy turns, and so like I said to anybody out there, never give up, and just keep rolling, and good things will happen.
And you're all,
It
I
really
mean,
love the music.
but you three bands there, you're all very different in a way.
Hmm.
Ministry's very different to you. Gary's very different to you, and they're different
Yes.
to each other. So that's an incredible mix. But I can understand where fans would like all three because you're all fantastic bands in your own genre, if you want to call it that.
It worked really well. Like, I mean, we saw a lot of our shirts out in the crowd, and like I said, every night was pretty much a sellout most places, and it everybody was just in a good mood, and everybody was really happy, and Gary's one of the nicest humans I've ever met. He would actually come on stage and say things like, "This is one of my favorite tours I've ever been on," and a big shout out to Frontline, and it was just
Wow.
uh, one of those kind of tours where like some tours when there's bands, I think everybody's trying to outdo everybody, but
Yeah.
this wasn't like that. So I think everybody was pretty secure about who they were and what they represented, and because the crowds were so large, it was like I said, it was just a big love fest this for hard music, because I mean, Ministry are pretty loud.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like the volumes just kind of went up all night, and Gary's an amazing live performer as well. He showed up every night, like he never just didn't show up.
Wow.
So like that's the sign of a true performer.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some bands that just kind of do their piece and they're gone. That's it. And others hang around and watch each other and kind of get
Yeah, no,
into it.
this was historical. Yeah, I think for us anyways.
But I mean, you're all kind of legends in your own. genres as well. I mean, it's just amazing. What an amazing lineup. That's incredible. It really is.
So this Malta, like, tell me more. Like, I mean, are people flying in for it? How does this work? I mean,
What, as in fans or
yes, yeah. Where's all the fans coming from? They don't obviously live all there, right?
no, no, no. Go. I can go back a couple of years because there was Eric 13 from Combi Christ. He was the guy on the stage introducing the bands, and he
Hmm.
spoke to some of the fans at the front row, and they were from everywhere, like Mexico,
Okay.
America, Canada,
Right.
and then all the European countries as well.
Okay.
So they come from all over for it.
Uh-huh.
It's it's a really lovely event. It's in a nice place. Um,
It's indoors or
it is
outdoors?
it, it, it kind of indoors. It was
Right.
is
Okay.
outdoors in summer where they take the roof off, but in winter they
Okay.
put or in winterish
Okay.
fall or whichever they put the roof on.
Right.
Um, so it's technically they're nightclubs,
Mm-hmm.
but it's in a nightclub village, which is really
Mm-hmm.
strange. Um, so it's in the middle of the country, so there's
Okay.
countryside around it. Um, there's little outlets for food
Mm-hmm.
on the outside. Then you go in. There's a pool outside. Then when you go in, it's a venue. They've got two or three bars inside as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a nice venue. There's little stalls in there as
Okay.
well, selling like whatever they want, kind of thing. Um, but it's really, really lovely, and there's a lot of nice people come there. It's quite strange seeing everybody, so many people in black.
Right.
Um, and the little country or seaside town where everyone seems to stay, it's like a sea of black.
Okay.
Just for a few days. It's just quite weird. But the Maltese are very accepting.
Okay.
They don't judge,
Okay.
or most of them don't judge, and you can
Right.
be yourself, walk down the street and no one criticizes. They just treat it like a normal person. And there's none of that, what's that, or is what they look like or anything like that. It's just they accept you.
Okay.
So that's something really, really nice about here. It's very accepting and very friendly.
And so is the festival away from the city then? Is that what you're saying? Or
It is, yeah. It's kind of nowhere's far from anywhere.
right.
Obviously, because it's so small. So nowhere's far, and you can always
How do
get.
you get around? Do you have taxis, Ubers? Like what kind of
There's taxis everywhere.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
there's there's buses. They're frequent. There's taxis. However you want, really.
Right.
Um, taxis are reasonable, I guess.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't I mean, yeah, I don't like buses, but that's like
no, no,
but yeah.
but there's taxis and they're efficient.
So is this like a 3 day festival in
It's a
total?
three-day festival.
Right.
Um, fair amount of people. I reckon over 1,000 fans get there.
Right. Okay.
It's a smallish place, but it does fit a lot of people.
Right.
Um, more, I guess it's more of an intimate festival,
Right.
but it is a wonderful festival. It really is
Okay.
good, and it's so friendly. Um, it's just unusual because it's so friendly. It's not. There's nothing. There's no problems or anything like that, and it's all well organized. Um, the guy who organizes it is very, very good at that. Uh,
Okay.
but it is. I think I've not met a band who didn't like it.
Right.
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean I'm looking for it as like a little exotic getaway, place that I would normally ever never stop over or see. So that's why I thought this was an opportunity for me. Like and
Yeah,
there was a couple of things I did want to see there. So like, yeah, I think it'll be cool. And I think we're one of the last bands on or something. I think
I think
like,
the last day is it?
yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hopefully everybody will still be awake and not partied out.
Oh, they do. They do stay
Yeah.
awake. Yeah, they do stay awake. I
And
struggle at
so
times. but I do
Right.
sometimes. But yeah,
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be should be fun.
oh, definitely, definitely, you'll enjoy it, Bill. You really will,
Okay.
and yeah, you will enjoy it. What influences your music?
What influences my music?
Has that
Like,
changed over the years?
well, I mean, I think at first, like, um, when this electronic music kind of started, like it was more about like, technology was just starting to like, and I think that kind of influenced us. Like when we first started, the sampling just started, like a sampler, and when I saw the sampler, they were kind of archaic and they didn't have a lot of memory. But to me, like the thought was always like, with this, you can pretty much be an orchestra, you can be a band, you can be whatever. I found like the opportunities were going to be endless, even things you were going to sample and stuff like that. And so when that and the first, Steinberg computers came on board and Ataris, I mean, 1040s and stuff for writing, I think that kind of really influenced us as far as about how electronic music was going to be an unlimited way of being creative,
Yeah.
And so and then the other part was, like I've always been interested in art and history and the the local political vibe in the world of what mankind is doing and stuff and then obviously always like listening to other people's music and stuff also like hearing something cool and going, wow, that's really cool. And like I think in the early days with Neubauten and Test Department
Oh
and
yeah.
Kraftwerk and SBK and Liaisons Dangerous and DAF, like all that kind of music. I think it was all encompassing as well as to like all those bands were literally new too. And so I think probably just all that in itself was more than enough to get us going where we wanted to go, like it it just felt like an endless opportunity to be creative. And also like there wasn't anything else really written to for us to like follow course on because none of this music that you see now and hear in these festivals, they didn't exist back then, so it
Oh,
was like it was really like electronic music like ours and the Skinny Puppy era, it was all like punk rock electronic music, like it was all new for people as well. And so it kind of we were kind of on our own and had no boundaries or we weren't restricted to what kind of way or how we should do it. So I think it was all I think all that had a big part to do with how we all got to where we got to go, experimentation and going out there and labels like Wax Tracks and you know there was uh there was like it seemed like a whole movement of this type of music that just started to take roots in the underground world and it grew pretty fast actually, so and technology kept evolving as well and so it I think all that kind of was a big influence.
and I think you cited Cabaret Voltaire once, didn't you? Once or twice.
Yeah, like the big cabbies, like one of my all-time favorites, like if anything, we were always like, wow, these guys are too good, like I mean, the UK was such a huge, like one of my first, yeah, like the Cabs were a huge love, Fat Gadget was obviously a huge love, massive Joy Division fan, like I remember really getting into that band and a lot of people would be like, oh, they're too dark, they're depressing, and I'm
Yes.
like, you say what, like even journalists, and I'm like, no, I think this these guys are cool. They've got their finger on the, their pulse on music and
Yeah.
this generation of people, and the way things are at the time, and I started collecting all their vinyl and box sets and anything that was even the illegal stuff, so it yeah. And then look at and look with I mean, look at the history, right? So
Yeah.
like all those kind of bands, like Wire was another one. I
Yeah.
think even The Cure when they first came out, that whole scene, like the UK was on fire, right?
I
And
remember
I
people
think,
telling me that Joy Division was depressing, and I always found it picked me up in a
well,
sense.
I mean, I
I think,
found it very somber and very like thoughtful, and yeah, it wasn't happy-go-lucky music, but it's where my head was at the time as well.
yeah,
And so, I just, I was young and kind of broke and trying to find my way through life, and so it wasn't like all happy-go-lucky. And I thought
definitely
like
not.
that spoke to me, we were actually looking for a warehouse to live in Vancouver, and we thought we could set up an area where we could set up all our music stuff and record and live. And that's what you think like when you're a teenager, and like and being creative. And so it just spoke to me in like in our people in so many ways. I would rather listen to Joy Division than Duran Duran. Okay.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's that's kind of the difference, what I mean. Not that that was bad or anything. It was just my head was more into this world, and I think Skinny Puppy was always more of a dark music, Remissions and Bites, was much more wasn't happy-go-lucky music.
But you've done so well. I mean, obviously, when you started, there wasn't the internet, so you broke out of Canada.
Right.
So that must have been quite difficult.
I don't know, like, it's bizarre, like, but One Network Records, was literally two guys in a fax machine. No, no, no kidding, and I think they had the Grapes of Wrath. Sarah McLachlan was like 18 years old, and then Skinny Puppy. Those were their first
Wow.
pistas, and I mean, it they just it, put us in a van, and but like at that time, college radio in America was a big deal. So all the colleges or universities in America, like radio campus was like, if we looked at their charts, it was like U2, Gang of Four, Wire, and then there was Skinny Puppy, like on their list. And so we went on the first tour, and everybody showed up.
Wow.
Our very first tour in the middle of winter, we went through America, and people just really responded, and we were on all the playlists and stuff like that.
That's incredible.
So who, we didn't know, we would be like, holy shit, like, and people just seem to really love it, but, and like I said, I don't think there was a lot of bands before us that were kind of doing that, not in North America.
No, no.
So I think it just resonated. It just, with all these lost, angst-ridden youth that wanted to have black hair and were looking for something different, and I think, and there comes Skinny Puppy, like
Yeah, that's
out,
incredible.
out of the realm, and so it kind of, being at the right place at the right time with the right sound, with it, you could write a Hollywood script for it, and that literally was it.
And you've also just released only last month, I believe, your new album, Mechviruses.
Well, that's not really a new album. Like that's like, I think like Artifact. We had released two albums, and that was one of the ones. They were both soundtracks for a video game,
Okay.
and War Mech actually is what it was called initially from a few years ago. That was the second part of a video game thing we did for a company in Seattle. And then Artifact approached us and said, "Hey, do you think we could remix all these songs and get people to put vocals on them?" And we thought, Okay, give it a shot.
Yeah.
So I guess, Artifact has a lot of, like bands on their thing. And so they came back, Arc and acts like Ultrasun and all this came and, they did great jobs. And so it got released as a Mechvirus, like as a remix album for that.
But
What
do you
was
really,
called War Mech before, right? So it wasn't really a new Frontline album remix, So
but I do like
for
the song Head Map, the way that's done.
right.
Um,
Yeah. So I mean, so there is the original that came up before that called just War Mech that they released as well. So it was kind of a remix project.
do you, I know you might not want to say, but do you ever get someone remix one of your tracks and you think, oh God, I hate that?
But what?
Do you ever get somebody like do a remix of one of your tracks and you just don't like it?
Um, just trying to, honestly, we've we've never really um actually with Echoes, when we released Echo Genetic, the album, which did really well for us. And then we had a remix album called Echoes, which were remixes of those songs. Um, I would say 90% we really liked. I think there was a few that were kind of on the fence
Yeah.
that we didn't use. They weren't awful or anything, but we just thought they didn't make the originals any better, interesting. So, and we've only done that once or twice, but we've done that. So,
Wow.
we don't usually get people to do remixes for us like that. So we've been pretty fortunate with that. So yeah, so I think for the most part, it's been pretty good. So if there's been a few, we just don't release them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's fair
I
enough.
did, like on my birthday in September, I did release my first solo album, right?
Wow. I didn't realize
Model
it.
Collapse,
Wow. I'll have to
which
go and listen
became
to that.
Metropolis's number one selling record as from December to like January. So and we're about to release on April 3rd the first single from it, and then I think we have an EP with a couple of remixes that are gonna come out a little later. So yeah.
I'll have
So
to look because I know Metropolis do send me
this was one of
press
their big
releases.
things, So that's done really well. So I've done a lot of interviews and people asking me questions about that.
Wow. That's really good. I didn't realize you'd done a solo album, so I'll have to go and have a look at what
There you
Metropolis
go.
send
See.
me. Yeah, because I love your stuff. So
Yeah, check out Model Collapse. I mean, it's like I said, it's still I think number two on their playlist for sale.
wow.
It's so and like I said, I think April 3rd we have uh, a single coming out that Reese remixed, a dance version. So
You've had so many releases and everything, haven't you, in your career? It's just been amazing. You have amazing back catalogue and you're still adding to it. That's the incredible thing, all these years on and you're still adding to that catalogue and it's going to be a massive, massive back catalogue and legacy, what you've left for generations can go back and hear this music and it's not that dated, is it? Even the old stuff is kind of you can still listen to it. It's like Kraftwerk. You can still listen to Kraftwerk. I mean, it's
yes, yeah,
and
like I
it's
said,
the same.
yeah, like yeah, like when we played the old school stuff, people were really into it. So it's kind of, I mean, I think people are more open now to that kind of music than they were even when we were first doing it. Like
Yeah,
I think people have evolved, music's evolved, like it's all grown, the scene. So I think it's like it's a win-win for everybody.
definitely. I mean, I remember seeing an old Kraftwerk video. It's one of their first ones, and they did this first well, I wouldn't say it was a concert, it was more of an experiment. And they're there with the people in front, and these people had never heard Kraftwerk, and they're just like,
Mm.
do we dance to this? What is it? Because they just didn't understand what Kraftwerk were about. And it's back in the really early days.
Yeah, I mean they're they're gonna. I've seen them. I saw them a couple of years ago. They're gonna be here on April 7th, and
Oh wow.
a nice friend of mine gave me a few tickets, so I'm gonna take one of my favorite people and go see them again. And like they're new, they sort of rework things, but I mean, I think it's cool now, maybe cooler than ever. Like not dated, and
No,
the music's still amazing. So that speaks volumes. I mean, to me, it's classic electronic music. So I think like
definitely.
hopefully all of this will, like will hold up in its own generations, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it all fares.
Definitely. Is there any new albums or a new album planned that's pure frontline assembly?
Um, no, we're actually we just started working on a new Delirium album
Okay.
because that we we have a lot of, and it's funny, like Delirium, like quietly, we get close to 2 million streams a month on Spotify. Got a huge
Wow.
base, and silence still does really well for us. Like Tiesto played it at the Formula M1 at the Holland on the racetrack before the
Wow.
race. Like so it's kind of, so like we like to keep that particular project going because it's a different world, and it's people that listen to Delirium. It's one of those projects, where like with Frontline, I think more people, like or hard music, people want to go see it live and they want to go to a dance club, and but people also like to have listening music at home. And I find like a lot of people really enjoy having Delirium on when they're at home listening.
That's,
So we have a huge fan base for that. So we just always like to keep that going. It's always fun to shift gears and do something a little more, like melancholy, kind of atmospheric pop, kind of dark music, like it just keeps things interesting, and we're always trying to find a new singer to work with. At this point, it's more just about the process than about anything, and we don't feel like we need to prove ourselves or have a number one hit again. We just enjoy doing what we do, right? And
I
that's
was going to say
kind
you
of the
must be
bottom
really
line.
enjoying it.
I mean, I think as far as frontline goes, like I think maybe next year we can. You always think, okay, we'll do one more grand finale album. So I think maybe next year we'll start and but try to find an angle to it. So we're like, the way Lady Gaga found an angle to doing this kind of
Yeah.
music. It'd be just want to see if we can do it in a way that'll be interesting and maybe relevant because music changes all the time. So
Yeah.
who knows how this scene will evolve a little more. So we'll take our time and maybe we'll drop one more for good measures.
You do very well though, switching kind of styles to go to do like Delirium, Frontline. Uh, that's is that difficult putting yourself in kind of a different.
No, we love it.
You do.
It's like when Reese did Conjure One and he did that song with Sinead O'Connor's, like I mean it's just great to work with different artists and their historical value and just the
Yeah.
way they do things, it's kind of like I mean I think it's like I think it's like art, painters are the same way, they go through different periods where one they're just using the color blue for six years and then they change and then they only do landscapes or they do like psychedelic or whatever, I think. So I think like Reese once said, there's only so many ways you can paint the wall black.
Yeah.
After what, you're gonna have to start adding color and changing things and finding new ways to make yourself excited about what you're doing and stuff. And so I think with our side projects, that gives you that opportunity to try different things and doesn't put you in that box. Okay, it's got to sound like this, otherwise people will freak out.
Yeah.
And there's like a whole different world of fans out there that like different types of music, and I like different types of music. So it's kind of like, I can listen to Ministry, but in the evening. I love Chopin you know, and or Massive Attack, whatever it is, you know, like I think good
Yeah.
music is good music, regardless of what genre.
You know,
So,
I'm the same. I like some of the classical music. I mean, there's some of the classical music, as in the really classical. Um, there were some fantastic composers back then, and the
well, just
music
think
was
of
so
like
powerful.
at the Oscars last week here, you know, where they do they do a memoriam to all the people that have passed away in the last year,
Mm,
and they use Mozart's Requiem, you know, like from 300 years ago now.
I know.
If he could, you just imagine if he could just come back for a day and see that they're still playing that piece of music 300 years later to you know to
He
of
wouldn't have.
such
He
a
wouldn't believe
moving
it.
thing, it's fucking incredible,
It is.
you
I
know.
mean,
So,
when you think about it, I'd never thought of it like that, Bill. Never thought of it like that. But when you think about that, 300 years on, and they're still playing your music, that's one hell of an achievement. I mean, some people say, "Oh, you know, this song was written 50 years ago, you know, and they're still playing it." This was 300 years ago, and they're still playing
yes,
it.
I know. I watched the movie. I watched the movie last night called A Real Pain, and it stars Jesse Eisenberg, and he wrote the script, and I think he was actually nominated for an Oscar. And it's about him and his defunct cousin. They go back to Poland uh, to retrace their steps with a group. You know, their grandmother was a Holocaust survivor. You know, and it's pretty interesting the whole thing. And the entire time they were playing Chopin music for the whole hour and a half. You know, and
Wow.
again, you know, it's kind of like so that music lives on. You know,
It
it's
does.
so
It does. I
it's
mean,
interesting to see how it all like
it's amazing, isn't it? It really is
yes.
amazing how that music has lived through no matter what music has come out in that time period. That is
Well, I mean, are
still
they going to play
strong.
our music? So are they going to play? So that's my question then is just like in 100 years from now, are they gonna are they gonna think bands like Frontline or Puppy or Two for Two, is that gonna sound like or like Kraftwerk? Is that gonna be they're gonna listen to it and go like it's you know, it's very safe
Yeah,
classical electronic music and they can put it into you know into movies the way they use Chopin and
yeah, it does make you wonder,
Mozart and
doesn't it?
Beethoven, you know. Will it hold up? Will it have its space in history, you know?
I mean,
Will-
there's
I
music
mean
that's
that
disappeared after 10 years, let alone
yeah.
300 years. I mean, that's,
So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see.
yeah, yeah,
Sure, the Beatles are going to be there in 100 years from now, you know?
I think so. I've never
No, no,
liked
they
them
will be, you
personally,
know.
but
Yeah, that's a fact, right?
yeah,
So,
I've never liked them personally.
well, I mean, I'm just saying, you know, like it's standard, right?
It is people, they, and I suppose Elvis as well.
Yes.
He'll be
So,
around. I'm sure of that. Probably Michael Jackson.
yeah, possibly.
Yeah, there's some of those people just kind of just carry on, don't they? Bill, anything else you'd like to mention?
Nope, just come out and represent, and hopefully we'll see everybody out there.
Well, Bill, Frontline Assembly, thank you so much for your time, and it's been great talking to you.
Cheers. All right. See you guys out there.
Definitely, definitely. See you soon.
All right.